Hello, and welcome to the Women's Eye Podcast. I'm your guest host, travel writer Laurie McAndish King. You may have heard my interviews before on the Women's Eye or read my travel books or articles. Thanks for joining us again today. This chat is part of our travel series, talking with women who are getting out there, seeing the world, and having a positive impact. We're finding out how women can change the world through travel and how it can change us. Today, I'm talking with Riza Rasco, a scientist turned explorer who has traveled to every country in the world, more than 200, plus a bunch of territories. I know so many travel writers, and I don't know anyone that has done this. So I can't wait to talk to Riza. I have so many questions, Riza, about how she has managed to do this. Um, and what Riza also has done is write a memoir about her experience and the ways that travel can serve, both as a path to personal renewal, which Riza needed, and she writes about that in her memoir, and as a catalyst for the collective good. Hello, Riza. Great to have you on our podcast. You're joining us from the Philippines. Is that right today?
That's right, Laurie. Hi, and hi to your viewers or
I
listeners.
Yeah, I just want to ask real quickly because I know that there was a typhoon there last month. How are things going there now?
It's going okay, Laurie. The the Philippines, we probably have about 20 between 20 to 30 typhoons a year in a
Oh,
given year. So we're used to this.
I see.
You know, while the world feels so sorry for us,
Yeah,
we are really used to it, and it has made us resilient,
yeah.
um, over the years. And so, these typhoons hit us, but we get up, get up again.
Well, that's good news. Um, we have so much to talk about, but before we get started, I do want to remind listeners that this episode is brought to you by the Casco Financial Group in Phoenix, Arizona. Casco's president, Catherine Scrivano, started her business to help people like you create the financial strength to achieve their dreams. Okay, now let's get into a super quick background. With a PhD in bioengineering, Dr. Rasco built a successful career in the UK and in the US. But like many of us, Riza found herself standing at a crossroads during midlife. So she decided to travel. So, Riza, tell us, when and how did you know you needed to make a change?
When and how? When was, my midlife was unraveling, for a few years since I had to deal with infertility in my, late 20s to early 30s. Um, and then, I had kind of issues with my first marriage because of the challenges with the infertility. And then my mother, got sick. She was diagnosed with um, breast cancer, and I had to kind of care for her for 2.5 years. She was battling cancer, and uh, and she did not survive the um, the illness. And it's really after my mother died, uh, and that this journey started for me. And when that was in my early 40s when my mother passed away. That's now 13 years ago.
And so, when you decided to travel, tell us where you went first and why.
So when I decided, I've been traveling
The
throughout my
world.
adult life. Yeah, it's been my passion. And for 20 years that I was working full time, I was, using all my vacation and my work trips to, explore. new places that I get to. And when I decided to quit my job at DuPont, I decided to embark on this African expedition, and that was what I signed up for, was a 9 month overland journey across Africa, and it was a camping trip, and I hated camping before that. It's coming from the Philippines. You never go outside of Philippines and dream of camping, right? It's
Right,
just
right.
like life is like a camp living here, certainly when I was growing up. And so, but living in the Western world, in the UK, in Europe, in the Americas for 20 years, I felt like I was gone a little bit out of my true self. That's not what I felt at the time, but I just really needed to shake myself. That's what I felt. Um, and so signing up for this overland journey where we will sleep in tents randomly, wherever, whatever place we end up, having to pitch our tent, basically. Uh, and yeah, so that's what I did. A 9 month journey across across the continent.
So, and barely any infrastructure. You were in a truck. You were sleeping in tents. You didn't have running water. Um, did you feel scared? You must have felt scared. Did you feel scared?
Yes, I did feel scared, only for, the first probably couple of weeks.
Uh-huh.
But when you're traveling with other people, then it kind of, softens everything.
Yeah.
It makes everything bearable. And that journey made me really, really brave. It gave me courage to then embark on my own solo journey after that trip. And I did it for many years thereafter.
Well, is that? I'm wondering if that's one of the things you meant when you wrote. I love this part. You wrote, "Africa didn't give me answers; it gave me tools." Tell us what you mean by that.
Yeah, so it gave me tools because it gave me strength and courage, as I said. um, Seeing all the people there, particularly women, how how strong they are. They do everything. They do all the hard work. They carry firewood on their head. They till the soil, and they do all this while carrying their babies on their backs. Um, and so seeing all these things really inspired me. And if they can be this strong, I can be as well. And if they could live through all this, um, my situation is nothing compared to those. What am I grieving about? What am I sad about? So really, it gave me strength, not just mentally, but physically, because it's a rough journey to go through the continent. And I was hiking, I was running, I was on the back of this truck, which was uh, it was pretty rough because it was not air conditioned, it was open. So you're you're exposed to all the dust,
Yeah.
and the smell, and all the elements, the rain, and you get all that as you travel through this continent. And the landscape changes from the desert to the tropics to the forest. And you're 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 exposed to all the elements. So uh, if you go through all that, you know, it's hard not to become resilient.
Mhm. Mhm. I was in. You mentioned that you went skydiving in Namibia. I was in Namibia last year, and I was riding in a van with windows, and we got dusty even with the windows. And we had air conditioning, and we were uncomfortable even with the air conditioning. And I was only there for 3 weeks. So I just, I was imagining as I read about this 9-month overland journey that you did. Oh my gosh, it must have been, you must be so tough now.
It does toughen you, and I it's tough to get on that trip, and you meet all kinds of people, and you have to live with them basically,
Yeah.
whether you like them or not. But it's part of the it's part of the training, um, and yeah, yeah.
Yeah. What similarities do you see in the challenges that women face across the very different cultures that you've traveled in?
What's a similarity amongst women?
Yeah.
I mean, African women in general are tough. Whether you go north, south, east, west,
Mhm.
they are, uh, they do the hard work. Um, and the women and the men, most of them, um, are they just gather around and discuss things and over cups of teas and maybe, bottles of beer. And and I know this is true. If you go through the Muslim parts of the continent, like Sudan, South Sudan, you see most men are just, lying on mats, drinking their tea, and you wonder where are the women? And the women have uh, to be inside their homes, and then they gather and drink tea as well. Um, but they mostly do the housework, and and outside of the Islamic society in Western Africa, the women are all out there, gathering water, carrying water for miles, walking for miles with this, jerry can of water on top of their heads. If not jerry cans filled with water, they have firewoods. Um, and it's just so amazing. And this is across Africa. It's um
Hmm. Well, this is kind of related to that, but I'm wondering, what do you think about the way Western media portrays women in the regions where you visited? Are we getting the whole story about what their lives are like? I mean, I know Western media is a big, broad bucket, but were you surprised? Were you surprised? Was there something that just didn't seem to jive with what you had expected?
it's different when you're actually there, seeing how people live their lives. That's something that I never w was able to grasp in all my readings about Africa. Uh, you you would, watch documentary films about Africa and people's lives, but it they don't really, um, you don't get to relate to it until you actually live it, until you actually see how, how everything is out there.
Mhm.
Um, so there is still a gap between, what you see in television and the stories you hear to actually being there and experiencing uh, life uh, life there yourself. Because you're a different person. You have your own different experience in life, and certain things would make an impact on you in a way that may be different from another person who has had a different experience.
Mhm.
So yeah, and how the media portray, I mean, it's pretty accurate, but still, it doesn't get into you until you actually go there yourself.
Um, Maybe can you tell us about one person, and I'm thinking it might be Yvonne, but one person who really affected you, Riza?
Um, yeah, many women did in Africa, but Yvonne was a pretty educated woman, and she was also worldly,
Remind me, what
and
country was she in?
she was in South Africa. She's South African, but she had traveled quite a bit, and and so um, learning uh, learning things from her was an eye opener for me. And not the things she told me was something that uh, you know were not anything special, but it's just a reminder, a great reminder that yeah, you are in control of your life and your happiness. And I needed to hear that at that time. Um, so she made that impact on me.
What I'm wondering, what would you say was the most transformative aspect, Riza, of your travel? Was it doing things that were new and challenging, like being, all that tough overland travel, or was it interaction or immersion in cultures that were different from your own, or was it a whole combination of things? What do you think made the biggest difference in your life?
It's really for the African expedition. It's all of those. Um, it, it physically because it gave me an opportunity to to run, to get into running, and that's through the influence of the friends I met in the truck. Um, and so I had used that to explore. I ran to explore places within Africa, um, and hiking as well became a meditative exercise for me, and it was something I learned to do while I was in this trip, and and I got to interact with many tribes, with many communities, and it's being exposed to their lives, how they did certain things, um, and what learning about their culture, their own belief, whether it's religion or spiritual beliefs, um, really, you know, all of that, and some of the things I saw really revealed some parts of me that I didn't know before. Like, you know, I was a scientist so many years. I was trained to become an academic and a scientist, and my world was really at a microscopic level, literally. I mean, I spent days and weeks and years just seeing the world through my microscope, to suddenly realizing that I have so much interest in communities, in in people, um, and that to me opened up when I was in Africa, because Africa is about people more than anything, more than any continents I think in the world. Africa offer its people,
Huh.
And
I want to read something to our audience that you wrote. It was when you were in Togo, and I love the way you wrote it. You said that day had sparked something in me. I knew I wanted to help build something meaningful for a community, and I wanted to be part of a community myself. I was beginning to search for more than discovery. I wanted to serve. Tell us about that experience.
um, it was really uh, an an influence um, um, from by a friend um, who built a nonprofit in that part of Togo that is close to the Mono River. Um, it's a very poor, very poor community, and I saw the kind of help that they were given. Um, I've traveled across Africa and I've seen all these United Nations white um, SUVs running around um, with being driven by, you know, diplomats uh, you know, or diplomats being driven in them, and they're air conditioned and lots of them around. And I wonder what are they really actually doing? I never understood the impact that they do, except from some friends who actually work with the United Nations. But visually, for me, except for seeing new buildings funded by these international organizations, I really don't see the impact as someone who was just walking on the ground and looking at things. But a private individual, uh, I saw the impact they did um, in this small town. And, it started by just helping them prevent flooding in the village. Um, and then, helping them put up a clinic, a medical clinic, which they didn't have, making sure that they have access to water, building wells. Um, so they were really carefully and thoughtfully funding things that would make this village self-sufficient. It's not just donating money or donating food, it's making them self-sufficient. And I saw that impact, and I wanted to do something as a result of that trip, which was really a trip just because I wanted to I it, because my friend built it, and I just, is my friend. I wanted to see this, but I didn't know that I would leave this place with such a profound effect on me, that uh, I wanted a community. I wanted to build something, and I wanted to help a community as well. So
You
yeah,
did
so
that.
that
You did that.
yes, and I did that, and I talk about it in my book that um, I was given an opportunity to do that in Togo, uh, and built Explore Africa for Impact, and an organization that highlighted the what Togo has to offer to its visitors. Up until then, Togo didn't have um, a real a tourism infrastructure. Travelers just passed through Togo. They didn't know what to see in Togo, except for a couple of obvious places. But it had more to offer in terms of its cultural heritage and landscapes. And I was able to put together with my partner Passy, whom I was able to work with, in Togo, and we did something beyond that. We decided to expand beyond Togo to other countries in West Africa, and then eventually to other countries within Africa, but uh, all for to to help local communities. So after we kind of funded and paid everyone through our tours, we then use whatever is left um, to to support local communities. We provided school supplies to public schools, starting with the school that Passy, uh, went to. We trained women to become tour guides. Tour guiding in Africa is seen as a man's job, and there's really no reason why women couldn't do the job. Um, in fact, they could share their very rich stories because as I mentioned, they run their households. They look after children, so there are more stories to share. Women have stories to share to visitors. Um, and so, yeah, I was I was able to fulfill my wish of helping communities and building a community of my own, um, which carried on to my work here in the Philippines.
Well, let's talk. We're almost out of time, but let's talk real quickly about that because I want you to explain I'm so impressed with the organization Philippine Global Explorers. I've been involved with travel uh, organizations, but yours is like 1,500 people, and they're all over the world, and I can't even imagine how you organized all that and how you keep it organized. Tell us a little bit about what Philippine Global Explorers is doing today and how it's helping give back as well.
So this is one of my favorite subjects here. Um, the Philippine Global Explorers is a community of the most traveled Filipinos from all over the world. So we are now over 1,600, um, and we're located around the world, and we are from all walks of life. And we are nurses, doctors, um, engineers, overseas workers. We have everybody in this group. We are bound by a common passion for travel, for world travel. And to become a member of our organization, you must have traveled to at least 20 countries or territories as defined by the Travelers Century Club. And that makes us real travelers, not just kind of workers who happen to be working in certain countries. And, and the idea is that behind Philippine Global Explorers is that we would help each other achieve our travel goals and inspire one another to travel. But that's only, one part of our mission. The second part of our mission is that we would harness the strength of our network, combining all our skills, our knowledge, our passion to give back to our country, to the Philippines. And so going back to my desire to help local communities, the Philippine Global Explorers is helping local communities across the country. We are now um, uh, all over the country from north to south, and we are working with different communities in the areas of education, in the preservation of our environment, in the preservation of our heritage, of arts, culture. um, we are working with partners, local partners within each region, and we are working with partners who are passionate about helping um, these particular parts of the Philippines, or wanted to contribute in the areas of education, for example. So we are now making real positive impact across our country, and we will continue to do so as we grow our community.
It must feel really good. Um, do you have any other, do you have any tips or suggestions, Riza, for people who want to travel the way you did, sort of close to the land and close to the people? Do you have any suggestions?
Yes, I could give a couple of suggestions. Um, First of all, I guess for those who are just starting to travel,
Yeah.
or who aspire to travel in particular, what helped me most is being able to travel um in many different modes. So I don't just refer to, making yourself flexible in terms of traveling by land, by air, by boat, um, and being open to traveling on, public transportation, no matter how maybe um, unsafe they are, or relatively unsafe they are. Um, like, being open to getting on tuk-tuks.
Yeah.
Um, and in India, in Thailand, and getting on um, bikes. And for me, I was trained as a young um, when I was young to drive a motorcycle.
Mhm.
So I can drive a motorcycle um, manually, or automatically, big or small. Um, when I was growing up in Los Baños, in my hometown, um, I was driving my father's bike, and which was far too big for me, and that really helped me through my travels. And being able to drive a car, left-hand drive or right-hand drive, because I lived in the UK for a while, that was also helpful. So try to uh, be able to uh, drive all these different modes of transportation, being open uh, to getting on, riding these different public transportation from every country, um, and and walking, open to hiking and walking. So these I've found were very key to my explorations. And beyond the practicality of this, I learned a lot from traveling solo. Um, it's to me getting into real travel when you are able to travel on your own and you're comfortable doing so. Because it's only when you're showing up by yourself in these tribes that you get the real experience. Because if you travel with a group, you never, I can never, in the short time you are able to spend with a particular community, or with a tribe, with a tour group, you will never connect with them. There's always this thing. They're overwhelmed. First of all, they're overwhelmed with seeing, a, a, a large group of visitors, and they become more formal, and there's this distance. But whereas if you show up yourself, and you show that you're willing to adopt their culture, to learn about their culture, wear their clothing, and do the things they do, that's when you're able to connect with them. it makes you interesting to them, and they open up to you, and they make fun of you trying to be like them. It relaxes things. So traveling solo, if you can, um, really would is something I would advise.
Yeah. We have to wrap up, and we didn't get into the spiritual part of traveling, which I think is also really important. I do want to read one segment. Could you hold up your book, Riza? Um, I want to read one segment that I thought was so lovely. You said, "This is why I travel, to witness, to stand before someone else's sacred and feel the edges of my own soul stretch just a little wider." I thought this was such a lovely memoir, and um, I hope our listeners will want to read it. Um, Thanks to all of you listeners for joining us on the Women's Eye podcast, and thank you. This has been so fun, Riza. You can connect with Riza Rasco on her website, rizarasco.com, RIZARASCO.com, where you can also read Riza's blog. You can buy her book there, The World is My Mirror, and you can learn more about the Philippine Global Explorers there. The link is on our website, thewomenseye.com. And you'll also find our books there about inspiring women. This is 20 women storytellers, and 20 women change makers. It's glaring a little bit there, but I think you can see it. Inspiring women who are out there changing the world. Remember, you can rate and review The Women's Eye on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to our newsletter and YouTube channel. And again, thank you, Riza. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Laurie. I really enjoyed our conversation.
I'm Laurie McAndish King, and we're The Women's Eye. It's the world as we see it.